One day we were playing a game at West Ham, and my focus always used to be just about football, just about winning, just about beating the other team. And I used to froth at the mouth. And one day Ian Bishop, my partner in midfield on that game, he said, "Mark, you've got all stuff round your face." And Ian was a creative player, and I was the destructive player. And he used to be nice and flowing and calm and smile and relaxed, and I was the hyper tense one. He was laughing about the froth round my mouth, and I looked him in the eye, and he said, "Why get it off?" And I said, "No, it's staying." And he said, and it was at the time that all those dogs were coming into this country, I think from America, all those rabid dogs that were biting people and wouldn't unlock their jaws. And he said, "You look like a mad dog." That's how it started. As a person, as a player, as a friend, was Julian Dix. A unique character, a deep character, a lot more to him than meets the eye. Warrior, hardest man I've ever played with. Funny, crazy, mad. We used to take the mickey out of each other rotten, him more than me. I loved him. He was a big bully. If you were playing cards, he would come over and rip up the playing cards. If you was reading a paper, Julian would come over and just rip the paper up. And he'd throw it all on the floor in little pieces. And you'd look up at him and say, "Why did you do that?" And he'd just laugh. And you'd be playing a proper game of cards on a team bus with Julian, 4 of you on one of those tables, and you'd be getting towards the good part of it. And Julian would walk past and he'd rip the cards up. And the 4 of us would look at him and say, "What are you doing? Why did you do that?" And he'd just laugh and walk off. And I used to love it. I used to think it was fantastic. He did not care what anybody thought. And he just used to amaze me. And I used to look at him and wonder, what was his psyche?
He was good for that, Martin Allen, and he was crackers. Like I've spoken about this before, but like he'd do things like first round of the FA Cup away at Stalybridge Celtic. He'd go, "It's going to be a tough game tomorrow, lads. It's going to be like this hedge, yeah. It's going to be like this." And he'd make us all run through the hedge. And I'm talking, it was as wide from here to the curtain. And we're thinking, surely he don't mean this. And he just ran at this hedge, dived in it head first, and he didn't even make a print in it. And then he wrestled his way through all the way to the other side, and then ran round the other side of it, and his face was bleeding, scratched, and he went, "Come on, who's with me?" Like that. "Do you want to get through to the second round? It's going to be like this. So you're going to have to take some bumps and scrapes." We're like, right. So everyone just started climbing, finding little routes through his hedge, and all the staff did it first. He must have obviously worded him up that he was going to do it, and all the players had to get through it, and he'd just do mad stuff like that.
Did I run through a bush?
So we've been led to believe.
Yeah, I did. It wasn't a bush. It was a hedge.
A hedge. Tight knit as well.
Yeah, it's a stubborn one, isn't it, to get through?
Thorns?
It was one of those with thorns in, but from 25 yards away, as you're jogging around the training ground, I couldn't see the thorns.
Go on, lads.
And by the time you've seen them, you've committed.
Yes. And Braveheart says, "Come on." Because MK that was also a club in a transition. They'd had 2 relegations, and there'd been a huge amount of criticism. And it was like, I thought it was like a party boys club. They'd wear their shirts all open, they'd have sunglasses on, they'd have all the chains and the watches, and all the stuff I hate. The ties would be down here, and it was relegation and nice cars, and it was all the stuff that I just thought reeks of failure. So we had to make it more humble and more disciplined and more focused. And I had to be unpopular, unfortunately, and to turn it round. So some of those things, I did run through a bush. And as you're going through a bush with a pair of shorts on and a T-shirt on, and you get in and you feel all those fucking things going in you, and you can't turn round and come back.
Can you imagine if you did?
There's 20 of them.
Forget that, lads.
There's 20 of them players looking at me from behind, grinning, like, And I got to the other side, and those thorny bushes that we see on the side of the A roads. It was one of them, like with little white flowers at this time of year, but they're all prickly, and the prickles are fucking prickles. But the problem and the dilemma I had was once I'd got to the other side, I still had to get back. And that was the problem. I said to them, "Oh, don't come through." So I'm on the other side, covered. They're everywhere, jabs. But I still got to get back. I thought, how am I going to do it? So I had to run along the thing, come through some woods and come back out. And they're all like going, "Oh my God." No, that was a mad moment, that one. There was no way I was going to pull back. And it was the same with that much publicised, when I swam across that river. They'd have been talking about it, the players in a pre-match thing on a Friday afternoon away at Hartlepool. When I swam across the river, did you know about that?
Yeah, it's cold up there as well, isn't it, Hartlepool?
And they hadn't won away from home, Brentford, all season, and Hartlepool were in the playoff positions. It was a sunny afternoon, coming up to about 3:30 when the kids were coming out from school. And we just got up there from London, had a warm down on this little field, and Stuart Talbot, the captain, was a proper decent bloke, and Scott Fitzgerald, the defender, Londoner, cocky. They were talking about going in the river for £1 a man. And I was, as the manager, on the first away game, was Brentford manager, about 15 yards away. And I was watching them, and they were doing this warm-up and just loosening off, load of old crap, really. And in the end, I turned round with a bit of a face on and said, "Well, if you say you're going to flipping get in it, get in it. Stop talking about it." They jogged off. They jogged back. They started to do some more stretching. And then Stuart Talbot, the captain, said, "Gaffer, no. I said, if you say you're going to do it, if you say you're going to swim it, get in and swim it. I'll do it. If you all put £1 a man in, I'll do it. I'll show you." They all jogged off, and I'm stood there and I'm thinking, "Okay, now what a mistake." I'm looking at the river. It's about 20 yards wide. Not even that, probably. I tell people it's 30 yards wide, but it wasn't. So they all bounced back, and Talbot, first thing he says was, "Yeah, we're all going to pay £1 and the staff's 24 quid. You swim it then," like with an attitude and a smile on his face. So I said, "Yeah, of course I will. You finish what you're doing and I'll do it." They're all giggling and laughing, which was pretty good as a manager to get your players to laugh. They came back, said, "Right, we're ready." So I took off my top. I'm bare top. I've got a pair of shorts on, got my socks on. I start running down the side of the riverbank, and it was 3:30 when all the school kids are coming out from the school. It was just at the top of the road. So all these girls and boys are walking along, and I'm jogging through them about 50 yards down, crossed the bridge, jogged back across, and I'm now facing them across the river. So the whole Brentford squad's looking at me, like smiling, thinking, "What a tosser." And they're staring across, thinking, "Oh my God, is he going to do it?" And when you're going to get in a cold swimming pool when you go on holiday, you go, that little like, "Oh my God." Shit. And I'm stood on the side looking in, and there's all reeds coming up the side of the water and little holes with mice and rats and all that stuff, which I don't like. I can't say no. I just went and dived in, or jumped in, because I didn't know how deep it was, and just swam as hard as I could to get to the other side. When I got there, it was all muddy coming up the bank, the side of the bank, through the reeds and the Coke bottles and the crisp packets.
Oh, like Pearl Harbor, isn't it?
Through.
Condom on your finger.
Yeah. So I got out the other side, pulled myself up, and like Rambo-ish, I said, "If you say you're going to fucking swim it, now fucking get in and swim it." They're all stood there absolutely pissing themselves with laughter, because it kind of was funny. And I ran as fast as I could back up to the hotel. Not a posh hotel, just like some shithole. As I pulled up into the car park of the hotel, there was a coach called, it was a creamy coloured coach. You may or may not know this. It was called Wallace Arnold. So there was a big W with an A on the back. What you may or may not know is those buses used to take people on tours around the country. So I got to the hotel, opened the doors to go into reception, and there's 45 American tourists with blue rinses in their suitcases queuing up to check into the hotel that had come off the coach. I'm covered in mud from my waist down, wet, soaked through, covered in shit. And they've turned round, they've seen me stood there, and I'm going, fucking hell. I was so embarrassed. I said, excuse me, can I have my key, please? I just pushed straight to the front. Can I have my key, please? Give me my key.
I just imagine you leaving this big puddle.
These are blue rinse Americans are saying, what the fuck is happening here?
Swamp thing.
Comes to 7 o'clock, all the players are down for dinner, normal, standard stuff. Got to 7:05. I went in nice and quietly. They've all looked round, smiling. I've got my club tracksuit on. And they all laughed. And I said, have you got my money? So the captain gave me the money. I put the 24 quid in my pocket.
Pen coins.
Yeah. Made a point of this. I said, if you say you're going to swim it, you get in and swim it. And we're playing for money. Paused, walked out, left it. Quiet like this. So 7:30, normal. The coach goes into the dining room. Captain says, what time are we having a team meeting tomorrow? What's the rules? Coach says, everyone's got to be in their rooms by 9. No one's allowed out of their rooms by 9 o'clock. You've all got to be in your rooms. Don't mind you having a coffee up to 9. That's fine. Rooms by 9. No team meeting tomorrow. No team meeting? Nope. So they're all sitting there thinking, no. The next morning, the coach and the physio go down with the kit man to the porter cabin at Hartlepool, changing room. And there was a shop called Prontoprint. Prontoprint was opening at 9 o'clock where we were staying, wherever that was. So they went there, the pair of them, and they got printed on posters. If you say you're going to swim it, then swim it. And they got about 50 made. So when they went down to do the kit man's doing all the stuff and putting all the kit out, as you do. And they, with blue tack and sellotape, put all these posters all around the porter cabin. I sat at the front of the coach on the way to the game and didn't say one word. It was totally silent. And they'd seen my face. Hartlepool hadn't lost all season at home, and Brentford had not won away from home all season. We were like 7 points behind relegation, beyond that line. We won 2-1. When the players went into the dressing room off the team coach, when you go in the dressing room and they saw it all like this, they were like, oh my God. And I stayed away from them. I didn't talk to them. I just left them. We just let them go out and play. Then I've been like that for a few years now. But that Hartlepool thing, people said he's mental to dive in the river. I can understand, but there was a purpose to it. I didn't plan it. It just happened. And it just came into my brain as quick as that.
Yeah, so something that starts off as a laugh has then turned into a thing about preparing for a game and just, right, lads, on you go. Get the signs up.
But to take that moment of, right, do you know what, I'm going to show them, I'm going to jump in the river, but then the forward, we can actually use this as a tool.
Yeah.
To then get the posters printed, put them up, so then it does become a tool, doesn't it?
But if you say you're going to do it, do it. Because there's an urgency to it. If you are going to do it, do it.
So do you know when you get into your room and you've dried off, you've had your shower and you phone the wife, you never guess what I fucking understand. What have you done now, Martin? I've swum across the fucking river. She must be like, no way.
I always used to like to wear the same clothes from the previous week. If I'd done well, I'd wear the same gear. And one week for West Ham, we were playing away at Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. And Harry Redknapp let me go straight from my home in West London, straight to the game at Stamford Bridge to meet the team. No overnight travel then. In the morning, I got my West Ham club tracksuit on and I couldn't find my trainers. to wear with my tracksuit. Bit of a problem. I had an option of black shoes, Wellington boots, or I had a pair of pink Converse boots. I put on my pink Converse boots with my claret and blue tracksuit. There was no car parking space for me at Stamford Bridge, and I had to park my car about a mile from Stamford Bridge. I had a skinhead at the time, and obviously with that nickname, I'm walking through Chelsea supporters, now starting to jog through Chelsea supporters because the mad dog's running down the King's Road in a pair of pink Converse boots. Because I didn't have a car parking space, I was late for the team meeting. So Harry's in there just waiting, and they've rung me. I don't know if they had mobile phones in those days. As I walked in the dressing room, Harry's looked at my boots. "What the hell are you doing? What's that all about?" And he shook his head, as Harry does, if you know what I'm saying. I just took my place. All the players laughed. I laughed, because you know that's the sort of crazy thing I would do. But we won. And I scored with a diving header at Stamford Bridge. Harry never mentioned the boots, nor did the players. Off I went home. The next week we're playing at home. At home you had to wear a suit to the matches. So I just picked out a normal kind of grey old suit that I would wear from Marks and Spencer's probably. And I picked out my pink Converse boots because I'd scored the week before. Got to the game and the meeting a little bit late, superstition from the week before. Walked into Upton Park, into the dressing room with me suit on, with me tie on, and Harry saw me pink Converse boots. I laughed, the players all laughed. Julian Dix took the mickey rotten. I'm not sure what the score was, but after the game, Harry wasn't too happy. And he let the mad dog have it.